You know, this is going to be a Gamergate related video, but it's not really about Gamergate. It's about what led up to Gamergate. Things that had been published in the games news industry for years before Gamergate. We're not talking about the Gamers Are Dead articles, and we're not talking about the Zoe post, and we're talking about stuff that happened literally years before that. Because there was already this mentality that gamers and the gaming industry was a video game rape culture. I kid you not. This was being argued by, and I have to point out, by many of the same people who became so embroiled in what came to be Gamergate later. Here's an article from May 31st, 2012. Quit Pretending There Isn't a Video Game Rape Culture by Brendan Keogh. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. Who even in 2012 was listing himself as freelance video game critic and journalist for the likes of Edge, Polygon, Hyper, Unwinnable, Gamma Sutra, Pixel Hunt, Ars Technica, and PC Power Play. And if you're at all familiar with Gamergate, you probably recognize a few of those publications as being ones that were totally on the bandwagon when it came down to saying gamers are dead because it's a giant, toxic, white male, anti-female culture. The thing was that they'd been pitching this for years. And this article is a classic example. I almost have to say it's the penultimate example, because he goes on and on and on in this thing. It's several pages long. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but it is. I'm going to put a link to this down below. I'm going to go ahead and present both the original link and an archive version, because I highly recommend reading the thing in full to see just how off their nut these people were even years before Gamergate. 2012, May of 2012 to August of 2014. That's the gap between this article and Gamergate. And it's not just, a clickbait title. You know how you'll see a clickbait title where it's like, quit pretending there isn't a video game rape culture, and it'll get in there, and there's a couple of snarky comments, and it turns out that the guy isn't showing anything at all or making any real claims, right? It's just to get you to click on the article. But no, in this one he's deadly serious. He even puts a trigger warning as the very first thing. Quote, this post is going to talk about rape culture and violence against women and will probably involve a few expletives because I'm pretty fucking angry. I want to note too that I am talking as a privileged and ignorant cis, straight, white male. He puts in the commas. So, right off the bat, he apologizes for his gender, his race, and his sexual preference because he thinks somehow that invalidates what he has to say about sexual violence against women. So, having determined to his own satisfaction that he's not competent to be reviewing game trailers because they just set him off, he then cites two feminist commentators, one of whom is actually somebody who looked at the trailer herself. She's commenting on it. And the other person who is not, just making general comments about what rape culture is, according to her. He then goes on to say that he was not going to comment on the Hitman Absolution trailer. Okay, but then you decided you were. And this gets really confusing. He says, well, I was, but then I wasn't. For one, Mark Searles at Kotaku Australia had already noted everything that is vile and disgusting and pathetic about it, and he links to this, to which Michelle Starr added some more excellent thoughts, to which he links, as did Sarah Ditum, which the above quote is from, as will many others before I post this in the morning, I'm sure. Then I got furious about it on Twitter, and Lee Alexander rightfully noted that even more than the video game medium's typically poor treatment of women, this trailer is so contrived, so vile, so pathetic, that it should not even be worth commenting on. That's right. You have a games critic who first looks to authorities in other people because he hates himself for his gender, race, and sexual preference. Just hates himself. So he's got to find somebody that he thinks is authorized, morally authorized, to say whether or not this game trailer should even be reported on. And she says no. She says you shouldn't be reporting on this. This is not even worth commenting on. Hitman is a major gaming franchise. Why is it worth reporting on? Because it's a news story. Because it's part of your beat as a games reporter or critic or commentator of any type. It's part of your damn beat. It's like saying, hey, you know what? Fallout 4 is coming out, but I think it's terribly sexist, so I'm not going to report on it. Okay, then don't. But he does. Because he did. Because here's this article. So, how did we get this article then? When he and Lee Alexander are agreeing that this, he's saying it's like getting angry at Westboro Baptist Church for being homophobic. Sure they are, but they're so pathetic they deserve little more than pity. The same goes for Square Enix with this trailer. It is so pathetic, so vile to not even be worthy of criticism. Notice how he just keeps repeating these words over and over. Like he's trying to justify the concept to himself of not doing his job. I pity the developers who have to put this filth on their CV. That sounds like a blue-haired little old lady from the 1950s said it. This filth. Well, what filth is this? The video that they're complaining about is a bunch of assassins dressed up as nuns are trying to kill Agent 47, who is the hero of Hitman Absolution. And they pull off the nun habits that they've got, and they go after him, and they're dressed in latex. And that's it. Wow. I pity the developers who have to put that filth on their CV. Really? I mean, seriously, this is the kind of stuff Mad Magazine used to mock people in Hollywood for doing, because they were trying to be moral censors and trying to, we got to think of the kids, we got to think of the children. These are games that are targeted and marketed to adults. If you really are worried that your kid is going to see a bunch of assassins dressed up in spandex or latex, maybe you should sit down and have a talk with your kid. Maybe you should say, you know what, I'm going to actually control what kind of games that I'm paying for that you play, because that's the majority of them, right? Very few kids are going out and getting a job and as a preteen or whatever, or even as a teenager, and then I'm buying my own Xbox and I'm buying my own games. And hey, you know what? If you as a family head have a problem with this sort of thing, that's it's your household. But this is a video game reporter and critic trying to lecture you on what your morality should be. And I apologize because I haven't yet gotten off his first page here. But then he goes on, let's kind of cut to the chase here. So I was going to ignore it. Then I saw people on Twitter comment that they really didn't see the problem with it. Or that it was a single case and wrong to make broad accusations at the whole medium. Which, it sounds to me like he was running into reasonable people who were saying you're making a tempest in a teapot. This is no big deal. These are assassin nuns going after this guy. So what? Have you ever seen a Bond flick? And I'm talking Bond flicks from the 1970s, for fuck's sake. Grow a thicker skin because right now you're wearing an eggshell. Instead, what he says is that here's Agent 47 being gung-ho, and this was, that this was more ghastly and shocking than depicting hypersexualized violence against women. What the hell does hypersexualized mean? Hypersexualized in that you have assassins wearing skin-tight outfits trying to kill the hero. I refer Brendan Keogh to the cartoon series Kim Possible, which is a very strongly feminist cartoon show, and it's a very good one. It's extremely well written, with a strong, intelligent, powerful, central feminist character who nonetheless still has real conflicts, and it's a great show to watch. A lot of people like Brendan Keogh will probably flip out about it, though, because, God forbid, there are cases where women will show up in this cartoon show wearing skin-tight outfits and violence ensues. Well, we can't have that, can we? Games sure can't. because this is endemic to a rape culture, a video game rape culture. Did rape occur or anything close to it in the trailer? Absolutely not. There is nothing going on aside the fact that you have sexually dressed women engaging in a firefight. Wow. That's what set this guy off. And he says that the response to him on Twitter blew his mind. This blew my mind. My problem with this trailer is precisely its sexuality. More specifically, its conflation of sexuality with violence. My problem with this whole fucking medium is that this isn't a single case. It's an extreme case, yes. Oh, wait until Bayonetta 2, buddy. Again, this guy is talking 2012. But it isn't a single case. I was happy to not give this trailer the attention it is rolling in the digital filth trying to receive, and there's that little blue-haired lady coming out again. But so many people don't seem to understand what is so fucking wrong with it, and this suggests that staying quiet isn't really a feasible option. So yeah, his entire reason for writing this article was to lecture you on how nuns wearing skin-tight latex amounts to rape. Which he goes right into in the very next sentence. Apparently the video game rape culture is so ingrained that this actually needs to be spelled out. And then, this is on the face of it crazy. There's nobody who would call themselves a liberal, and I'm a centrist conservative. Okay, I'm closer to the side of the fence that contains the little blue-haired old ladies who pitch a bitch fit about a little skin being shown on Matlock, for fuck's sake, right? But no, this guy actually says that people were responding negatively to the criticism, and Rob Fahey, he quotes Rob Fahey, I don't know who that guy is, but he gives it as a name. I think the trailer itself is a storm in a teacup, but the backlash to criticism has been really unhealthy. So here's where part of the mentality that you shouldn't be allowed to criticize the critics was already in evidence. Backlash to criticism has been really unhealthy. Any indication here? Really, the only thing that Brendan Keogh is referencing is that people thought that there wasn't a problem and you're making a big deal out of nothing. And Brendan flips out and it just blew his mind, and he thinks it's so fucking wrong and it's endemic to the video game rape culture that you say, hey dude, you're going, that's backlash to criticism is saying that you're wrong. And apparently that backlash to criticism is really unhealthy because he doesn't give it any other framework. There's nothing else here to determine what Brendan Keogh means is unhealthy or what the backlash is. In the context of what he's saying, it's just like, hey, this isn't a big deal. Oh, yes, it is! How dare you backlash against me and say that it's not a big deal? And, yeah, I sound a little dramatic right now, but right after this, I'm going step by step here. I wish I could cut to the chase, but he just produces gem after gem in this mine of shit. And I quote again, it really upset me. Not just infuriated me, but upset me. I lost sleep over this last night. I'm embarrassed and ashamed and disgusted to have any part in a video game culture that produces work like this. Although there are a number of intelligent people coming out against it, hey, ladies and gentlemen, don't agree with Brandon Keogh, Lee Alexander, and these other moral activists trying to tell you what you should or should not enjoy in your games, you're stupid. You're not intelligent because the intelligent people come out against these games. So, a number of intelligent people coming out against it and games that don't buy into the rape culture, they exist. But it is almost moot to the fact that our culture has gotten to the point where this trailer exists. This upsets me because we all let it get to this. If the mainstream media were to pick this up as a reason games are terrible or should be regulated or any other reason, I won't be coming forward to disagree with them. Jack Thompson 2.0, a bit short of that in that he wouldn't resist anybody like Jack Thompson. I don't know if by May 2012, Anita Sarkeesian was starting to produce her lecturing series about how all this stuff was. Oh yeah, totally rape culture, totally rape. Yep, women are being raped. Play a video game, woman's rape. There it is, because she's wearing skin tight latex. That's rape. He's one of the people who said right off the bat, no, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm fully behind it. Then he cites yet another person who was involved later on, years later, in what would be the Gamers Are Dead scandal. Yesterday, Patricia Hernandez wrote a strong, personal, and gut-wrenching piece for Kotaku, of course, about her own personal experience with rape and the rape culture implicit in gaming culture. And then he goes ahead and bolds and italicizes implicit. This isn't just 14-year-olds and 24-year-olds and 34-year-olds saying, I'm going to rape you on Xbox Live. Those gamers are as much a product of gaming's rape culture as they are one of its source. Wait. These people on Xbox Live saying, I'm going to rape you, that's the source of rape culture. It's not anybody being raped. It's somebody being an asshole over Xbox. Somebody being an asshole in multiplayer, tossing around the rape word is the same as raping somebody. You know what? I may be overstating what Brendan's view on rape is. So I'm going to deliberately skip over a lot of this nuttery here. So now I'm going to go ahead and get to what Brandon Keogh thinks rape culture is, as told to him by feminists, because he doesn't think he has the right to speak to power or speak even on the subject. He doesn't have the right to have his own opinions or definitions. This is what he's getting from people like Patricia Hernandez. Quote, that is rape culture, the means by which our society keeps women subservient to men by constantly reminding them that if they step out of line, if they for a moment think that they have as much freedom or power as men, men will rape them and put them back in their place. So a woman thinking she has as much freedom or power by going to the polling booth, say, is raped to be put back in her place. Because, or even if they just for a moment, honey, I'm going down to vote at the polls. Time for rape. Okay, maybe I'm still overstating his case. Except he then says rape isn't just forced sex. It's an act of exerting power. Rape is no longer forcing somebody to have sex with you. Nope, it's exerting power. Doesn't have anything to do with sex. It's exerting. It's watching somebody turn their brain off. It's painful to watch somebody actually believe something so stupid. It's like listening to a creationist try and tell you how they fervently believe the world is 9,000 years old. That's the kind of thing that I'm seeing here. It's total. It's not even that, because in that case, the bishop is citing a belief. He's not redefining words to mean things other than they do. He's not saying that the word in the Bible, Gomorrah, actually means ham sandwich. He's not saying that. This guy is. Rape isn't forced sex anymore. He says it's about keeping women and other groups of people subservient to heterosexual male dominance. So maybe this explains why he hates himself as a straight white male. Heterosexual male dominance. That to him, anytime you do something that's an act of exerting power in relation to a woman or other groups of people, what you're doing is trying to keep them subservient to heterosexual male dominance with rape. Let's not be bashful. Video game culture is complicit in the proliferation and continuing of rape culture. So, in terms of rape, he's not even just talking games. He's talking the world. He's talking about society as a whole is based on rape. Because he's redefined what rape is. Rape is just exerting power. You go and vote, you rape somebody. You go and buy a gun to defend yourself from a criminal. Is the criminal coming in? Are they of a Are they of a particular minority? Is it a woman who's breaking into your house? You shoot them, you just raped them. You should go to jail for rape because you defended yourself against a burglar who happens to be female. And then he continues on. Perhaps not as much as some other cultures or industry, but gaming culture is complicit nonetheless. It reinforces rape culture when male gamers on Gears of War tell Patricia they will rape her if she so much as thinks she can play as well as they play. How does that work? How does somebody on Gears of War tell Patricia Hernandez, oh, you think that you can play as well as I do? Well, I'm going to come rape you in your house. Well, remember, it's no longer raping somebody in their house. It's not rape. It's not forced sex. It's an act of exerting power. So apparently what's actually going on is the male gamers on Gear of War tell Patricia that if she thinks she can play as well as they play, they're going to be shooting at her because that's an act of exerting power. Because the game is built on shooting each other, right? So every one of those bullets is a tiny little penis coming to rape Patricia. That's how these people look at it. Video game culture reinforces rape culture when 99% of video game protagonists are male. When was that ever the case? In fact, recent studies have shown that the majority of video game protagonists are either neutral or you have a choice between male or female. If you only consider those games wherein it's one or the other and you don't have a choice, the majority is in fact male by about 2/3. It's about 60%, 99% of video. This guy doesn't have anything to say that isn't based on a lie, an exaggeration, redefining entire words about crimes. What a crime is. No, we're going to redefine what crime is to apply it to something that is not remotely a crime. That isn't even necessarily rude in society. Video game culture reinforces rape culture every time a game conflates a woman's sexuality with violence done against her. Okay. So Frozen. How many people just can't let it go when it comes to... Okay, don't kill me. When it comes to Frozen, the entire movie is written around the concept of female empowerment, and you've got violence going on. There's a sexualized woman there. You can't tell me that the female protagonists in Frozen don't look sexually appealing. Insofar as cartoon characters can, they do. They're designed to be pretty, they're designed to be beautiful, and those are terms that come across as sexual with women. And it's about hooking up with guys because they're going to have totally platonic relationships as king, queen, princess, prince, and so on, right? That's yeah. So when the guys go after the princess in Frozen with crossbows, that's rape. You're conflating a woman's sexuality with violence done against her. So Disney reinforces rape culture with their movies, according to this guy. And then he tries to excuse himself. So the Hitman Absolution trailer, he finally gets to actually commenting on it. Do I have a problem with the existence of female assassins? No. Evidently you do, because that's sexualization and violence. Apparently, conflating a woman's sexuality with violence done against her, that's a bad thing. If they killed Agent 47, evidently that would be cool, but that would be a very short game. The assassins show up. You have been prohibited from actually doing violence to these assassins because they are female. You are now dead. Game over. Do I have a problem with female assassins dressing up with nuns? No. Yes, you do. And so did the people that you cited, who talk about the sexual politics of assassins dressed up as nuns. These are the people that you're citing as your authorities. But no, you don't have a problem with it. Do you have a problem with Agent 47 killing females dressed up as nuns in self-defense? No, yes you do. You spent the entire rest of the article complaining about exactly that and saying that that's rape. What I have a problem with, what you should have a problem with, yes, he's, again, dictating to you what you should have a problem with, is that these aren't just women assassins dressed as nuns. These are women designed and dressed by the trailer's producers, probably a male, to look a male version of sexy, while telling while another male, Agent 47, bashes the shit out of them, while all other males, the Imagine Gamer at home, watches on. Except that all of that complaint obviates everything that you just said that you were cool with. You're cool with Agent 47 killing females dressed up as nuns in self-defense. You say you don't have a problem with that. But then you do have a problem with that. Because you read all this other shit into it. You insert the imagined gamer at home. Yes, that's your imagination. And you're saying, the trailer's producer, probably a male. Did you bother to check? No, because again, it's your imagination. You are mentally inserting this. Whether they are or not becomes utterly irrelevant because you've already decided they are. They have to be. Because this is the only reason you have to claim that you have cause to complain. That it's the people created, not even the people, the genders of the people creating it. And the genders of the people they create it for. So the exact same game content. If these were women designed and dressed by a female producer of the trailer to look a female version of sexy, while another female bashes the shit out of them, while other females, the Imagine Gamers at home, are watching on, that's cool. You don't have a problem with that all of a sudden. That is... I don't know if schizophrenic is the right term, but you are really disconnecting from reality. Brendan, and again, I shouldn't be addressing Brendan directly because he's not going to watch this. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what gamers have to say about his bullshit because that means that he would be challenged on it. He'd have to explain himself. He doesn't want to do that. These are comments from literally years ago. But this was the mentality, and this is my point. This was the mentality of video games reporters like Brendan, like Lee Alexander, like Patricia Hernandez, the people at Kotaku, the people at Gamasutra, the people at Ars Technica. This was their mentality years before Gamergate. They had been saying the sort of thing in even nastier terms for years beforehand, but it was here and there, hit and miss, and people ignored it because that's one guy with their opinion, just, fuck him, big deal, don't care. But when a dozen of them in the space of a couple of days all say the same thing, and they're pushing this same thing, you're a straight white male, you're what's wrong with gaming. And it's because you're all bigots and you hate women, you're misogynist and you're nerds and you live in your mother's basement and you have too much money and you're spending it on games that have content that we think is offensive to women. This article, Quit Pretending There Isn't a Video Game Rape Culture, this is exemplary of the mentality that is behind those arguments. And I apologize. At this point, I've nattered on for over half an hour, just over half an hour about this. About this one article. And I have not even covered half of what's batshit crazy here. He's talking about, the Dick Wolves jokes from Penny Arcade. Penny Arcade is part of the problem. They make a mockery of rape culture for their own cheap jokes and refuse to acknowledge there's anything wrong with that. Selling t-shirts, oh my god! Well, the reason they're making a mockery of it is because you've made a mockery of it. This isn't rape. He was like, rape happens. Rape happens a lot. If you know 6 women, you probably know someone who's been raped. We live in a culture that doesn't tell men not to rape. This mentality is nothing new. It's been going on for years before Gamergate. And it's the mentality that these people have to justify why they go after gamers, because long before people started having a problem with folks like Anita Sarkeesian, they were already considered toxic. They were already considered horrible shitlord misogynists. And the reason being is that these people had already determined for their own satisfaction that rape meant something it doesn't mean. And they had already gotten to the point where they were defining themselves as horrible people based on race, gender, sexual preference. These people were pitching hate as a norm and something to be admired. They hated themselves, they hated gamers, they hated games. And they were only here this whole time to tell us how terrible we were for liking those games, for playing those games, for becoming part of the problem that only they, and not even people on Twitter, could figure out. People on Twitter, you're making too much of a big... When Twitterites are saying you're making too much of a big deal about things, you might want to sit down with a nice glass of wine, relax, put on some easy listening tunes, put on some smooth jazz, you know? Just chill out for a while and rethink your life, not someone else's.